Yeah, they'll be after you. So I guess how did you find yourself kind of getting mixed up in this space? You also should mention are one of the guys behind a new platform for helping people sell their comics. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. I started a crowdfunding platform called Fund My Comic. Once we kind of started getting going with that, I brought on a partner by the name of Todd Oldmans, and he and I run that company with a number of right now volunteers helping with admin work. One of these days, they may get a paycheck though.
uh, what was the impetus behind that?
Well, it was pretty simple actually. I In 2021, I got sick in August, and I wound up going to the hospital with COVID. I was in the hospital for a couple weeks, and they had to put me in a coma, and I was in that coma for 5.5 weeks. And then I woke up, and we had 5 months in the hospital, recovery and everything. So life pretty much was paused for me. Before that, I was a pastor of a small church in Florida, and one of the things that we had, like I think it was late 2020, early 2021, we were having a meeting because there was a bill that was being presented that if a pastor would preach something from the pulpit concerning sexuality, marriage, gender, things like that, that they could potentially be charged with a hate crime. Okay. And the church would lose its tax exempt status. And so we were having a board meeting, and this came up. So I brought this up, and it was like just a blip in the meeting. It was so small because they were like, well, I guess we'll bail you out and we'll just have to pay taxes. Right. But we kind of saw that there was a group of people that were trying these things. They were trying to be more militant about their ideas, what they wanted. It wasn't just, hey, let us be. It was like, no, you have to think like us. You have to be like you can't just say do what you want, but you have to agree with everything I want. And that's not, yeah, I couldn't do that as a man with Christian values. I couldn't do that. As a, libertarian, I couldn't do that. That's not how we are. We're kind of live and let live people. And, and so that was kind of in my brain prior to this. Well, when I woke up and finally could start getting TV and media again, I realized that the world had gone to hell. And I kind of felt like I woke up in a bizarro world, honestly. And I was waiting for the dream to be over, but it never ended. We're still in it. But I realized, so when I came home in January of 2022, I started doing comics again. I slowly got back into it by the end of January, beginning of February. But one of the things I realized, I saw that there was a guy that not Kickstarter, but Indiegogo was withholding his funds for some reason because of trust and safety. And so I looked into what trust and safety was, and I realized that it's basically just a censorship committee is basically what it is. And I started to think I need to find something that I can do in order to continue to connect with my audience when they inevitably try to cancel me because Christian, leans conservative, they're coming for me.
Yeah, it's only a
Yeah.
matter of time.
Yeah, matter of time. And I wanted to make sure that, I had a free platform to be able to create and do art. Like my book, it's not Christian propaganda. My comics that I make, they're about superheroes and, descendants of the ancient Greek gods and stuff like that. I mean, it's just fun entertainment. And
So technically, somebody else's religion you're propagandizing that.
true, I didn't even think of it that way. But but people don't care about what's in the book so much. They care about the person behind the book now, and then even if you want to put some of your own thoughts and views in there, heaven forbid I should do a book on, on some Christian values that the world deems intolerant, you know? I still wanted to be able to have the freedom to do that.
Well, it's been funny when I kind of fell into the libertarian space a number of years ago. It's like I found myself in odd company because, like I say, I'll say I'm a leftist, and I found myself in this weird space where I was surrounded by these displaced Catholics and Mormons, and now many of my friends are all like Orthodox Christian and like Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, things like that. That's
Yeah, I think if you have any adherence, I think if you have any adherence to Scripture and the morals in Scripture, you're kind of labeled. They kind of push you into this area. Okay, they make you go there, and I knew it was coming, and so I started looking into ways to kind of cancel proof myself, to be uncancelable. And as I was doing that, I ran across. I looked at the different methods that were out there for doing crowdfunding, WordPress, Shopify, plugins, all that. And nothing was standing out as a viable option for me. And I wound up running across this developer that had created a crowdfunding infrastructure, and they also provided hosting. Now their infrastructure was proprietary, so it wasn't like code that I could just use on my own website. Like they said, if you use our code, we have to manage all of this because it's ours. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. And so it saved me some stuff, but they have like these really low like entry points for people that are just like kind of fooling around. And so I did that. I tried it out and I started looking at it, and it was going to work for me. I needed to make some upgrades, so I paid for some upgrades because you have to pay the developers. They're developers. That's what they do. That's their job. That's their company, right? So they make the website do what I want it to do. And so, they made a couple changes, and we started looking into, I had some of my more technically minded friends look at it, and they said, you can host a lot of people on this. I said, yeah, I can host other campaigns. I was thinking maybe helping out my friends in case they got canceled, and then shadow bannings started taking place, which was, I was like, okay, well, that's weird. And then Mike Barron gets kicked off of Kickstarter for his book, Private American. And I'm like, this is nuts. So I was convinced into opening up the infrastructure for more people. And so we started making additional upgrades, and we are still making upgrades. But we got to the point where we could launch this thing. We launched it about 3 months ago, a little over 3 months ago. So yeah, we started in 2022 with it, and just watching the way things were going with crowdfunding, and now people are fighting over Indiegogo versus, or what I call the pink site versus the green site. They're going at which one to use, principles, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I don't have to worry about that. My principles are, build an arc to get out of this stuff. And so that's what we did.
I'm curious if you have any plans in that regard to move past just comics and kind of move more into like the broader Iron Age media space, or you guys plan on just kind of keeping it strict to comic books?
Well, it's not just comic books right now. Actually, the site is the broader Iron Age things. We do games, we do novels. Anything is on there. It's just a clever branding tool for Fund My Comic, because anything that you would find at a comic book shop is basically on the website. So that's kind of how we do it. So it really is kind of geek culture. I am looking at possibly doing a site that will be movies and music. So kind of, that's kind of more in that area. That's not really Iron Age or anything, but there is space for it.
We've seen what's happened with Tim Pool in the past, couple months, and I'm like him getting kicked off of Bandcamp. So there's absolutely a place for that out there. I know plenty of artists out there that would love it.
Yeah, I mean, be able to sell digitals and things like that would be nice. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. So we're looking at expanding into that. And I know that crowdfunding TV shows, movies, things like that happens. And I'm a big fan of The Chosen, and it was crowdfunded. And so I'm like, we could get into that space too. We could help any way we can.
The Tuttle Twins, perfect example. I love watching that show with my kid.